Hi guys, welcome to part 2. We'll just do some basic chopping tests with this to see if it's how the edge holds up. So sorry about the quality of the video. I've got doing it at the allotment today. So without further ado, we'll just put it through its paces a little bit. Okay, so a little bit of green wood. It's been cut down maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, so still a little bit green, but it has been drying out in the sun. So we'll start with an easy test to see how it chops through this. Say maybe just over 2 inches thick, I would have thought. So let's crack on. I don't know if you can see it, hopefully you can. It'll be the best video I've done, but we'll see. Right, so cut through that, no problem at all. Like I say, it's a little bit green. You can see it's a little bit dry inside as well, but it's I'd say it's been cut a couple of weeks ago, so it did the job. Just for good measure, I'm going to do it again. Same piece of wood. What I'm going to do is probably cut it just here, just above that knot, I'd say. Now I'm doing this on purpose to make it harder for myself. Okay, so cut it again, just above the knot. So went through that, no problem. What I'm doing now is check the edge. Okay, so no chips on the blade from what I can see. It's really hard to see that. I have to take my word for it, unfortunately. Like I said, the quality of today's video is not going to be very good. Don't know if maybe that's a slight, very slight mark on the very tip. I'd say about an inch away from the tip. It's only minor. I don't know if that's part of the and it could be something that could be stropped out, but we'll carry on. Still passed on my very rickety bench that I made. Okay, so number 2, chopping. I'm going to take it up several notches. Now this, it's been seasoning maybe for over a year. I'm not too sure when this was cut. It's absolutely rock solid. I think it's cherry. Rock solid. I've chopped through this before with similar blades in the past. It's very hard, so this will be a true test for this. So let's crack on. It's hard to do this with this rickety table. Let's have a look. Missed a few swings. Get some welly. Probably hear how hard this cherry is. It's like hitting into concrete. trust me. It doesn't help that this table's actually moving at the same time, but though, there you go. Get in there, hard work. That was hard work. As you could probably tell, it's very hard wood, very hard cherry. It's been seasoning for many months now. See how dry? It's like hitting concrete. But let's check the blade out. Well, quite shocked actually. No chips, no rolls at all that I can see on this blade. Believe me, that was hard wood. That's rock hard. I say I've chopped that wood in the past with blades that's more expensive than this, and it has chipped some blades in the past and rolled. But this one, believe it or not, it's not done any damage at all. No chips, no rolls, nothing. No bends. Still perfectly straight. And to be fair, I like my chopping blades heavy. Top heavy, blade heavy. But saying that as well, it did actually chop through, which is kind of surprised me in a way. And if you notice, I've not put a lanyard on it. I'm not putting gloves on it or anything like that, because I wanted to see what it feels like in my hands, because I don't wear gloves that often. I know people say, oh, you should, things like that, but I don't. To get a true measure of a blade, I think you need to feel the grip, you need to feel everything going on in that handle to do a proper review. No point really at all did I feel my hand slipping out of that either. So you've got this bit of a swell you sit here that actually hooks onto your finger there and stops it from moving. But even though my hands are sweaty, because it's red hot today, guys, really it is. It's in the 30s today, and it's all going to get a rise a lot hotter. That's why I've chosen to do this in the shade. So I put it in the sunshine. You won't be able to see this video because it's so bright. Even in shade, I'm sweating, obviously, because I've just done that as well. But back to the knife. I mean, yeah, it doesn't slip at all. At no point did I feel like it was going to come out my hands, even though my hands are sweaty. Went through some solid seasoned cherry. Yes, it took a while to get through, but it did do it. And this steel, yeah, that's a pass in my book. You know, there's no edge damage at all, no chips, no rolls to the edge, no bends, still perfectly perfectly straight. So another test passed. Another wood chippings. What made the chopping more difficult as well is because the table that I'm using, it's just a log table, but one of the legs have snapped, so it's really loose. So every time you use it kind of jumps out of the way. So that's probably why. It wasn't me moving, it was at the actual table. So I had to concentrate on that as well. But yeah, impressed with that edge so far. Really impressed. Okay, so talking about cherry, I'm going to use the same piece, I think, and I'm going to do some batoning, I think. Let's have a look. Let's go find a suitable stick for batoning. Sorry about that, should be more prepared for my videos, but this was like a spare in the moment video, so I'm not prepared today. I use this bit of old wood for a baton. We'll see how this knife performs in that. So a bit of a cross baton, we'll do it about there, I think, and then see if I can bang on the tip as well to test this tip. As you can see, it's very hard, very hard wood. Table's moving again. Okay, so baton through this and show you again. You've got knots there. Bear in mind it's well seasoned as well, so you got 2 knots in there, so it went through them. Cut it in half, almost in half, more like lateral, with a lateral cut, but it went through it. That's the main thing, went through it. So break this up again into some smaller pieces. So do it against the grain this time. You can probably hear how hard this wood is, yeah? Very knotty wood. Very knotty wood. Now baton it about there at the apex. So again, splitting it down, but again we've got 2 knots here as well, so it's kind of deviating around the knots, if you get me. Do this one as well. Get on the whacking of the spine. So yeah, again, splitting the wood. So check the edge again. Oh, sweating today, guys. Very hot today. So check that tip. Okay, tip appears to be straight. There's no damage to the spine where I've been hitting it with the baton, so that's good. don't think there's any damage to the edge either. Thought I saw a little chip on the edge, but it was actually a bit of cherry that was stuck on it. So let's give my honest opinions. I don't know if that's a bit of cherry on the blade. So more cherry on the blade. Yeah, that bit there, just going to scrape it with a nail. Just make sure that is a bit of cherry and not a roll on it. Now bearing in mind that this was very well seasoned, very, very dry, very rock hard. There's not really any significant damage, okay? There is ever so slight marks, again near the tip where I said before. But it's nothing major at all. Considering how hard I've been hitting that cherry. And this is obviously a flat ground with a secondary V-edge. That's pretty good. Quite pleased with that. I've had worse knives than this, more expensive than knives than this actually fail at that task. Really have. And considering the price for a survival kind of knife, it performed excellent. But it's to be expected really, because this is 52-100 steel, which is a good carbon. Right up there with a cheap tool to steel, but it's really, really good. It's really easy to maintain in the field. I'm quite actually fond of the steel myself. But yeah, no damage, no rolls that I can see, apart from very minor blemishes near the tip. I don't think the camera will pick that up, guys, so again I am sorry. Spare in a moment video for you. I don't think it's going to pick it up, but it's very, very, very minor. Talking, you know, less than 0.5 millimeter, but it's not bent. It's just a mark. That's all. A few strops and that'll come out. But other than that, no damage at all. No bends, no chips. So I'm happy. Test passed. Okay. So now I'm going to do some more batoning, but this time I'm going to take it up a notch. I'm going to use some what I call knife destroyers. It's basically some very hard pine, and it's probably the thickest pine that I've got at the minute that's suitable for this knife, and it's this one. This has destroyed quite a few knives, but I don't know if it's going to weaken the wood as well, because I've actually bored some holes in it, but it's still hard, so we'll see. It has got a lot of knots in it as well, which is probably the smallest I could find to do the video. This has destroyed many knives that I've reviewed, so yeah, we'll see how it performs. For the record, I hate pine, by the way. Very sticky. Again, it's not a heavy piece of wood, not a heavy baton. We'll see with my rickety table again. Dear me. Right, so do it here. Do it here, I think. Right, here we go. You can probably hear that. at that. I mean, wow, you know. Very hard stuff. Now, because obviously this knife, it's thick, but the grind on this knife is only flat grind, so you don't get the wedge that you do get on some thicker heavy duty knives. It's 6mm thick at the spine. Obviously it tapers to about maybe 2mm, and that's the problem that this knife is having. It doesn't help that this table's moving. Right, so okay, so you can see now split is starting there, which is good, but bear in mind this is extremely tough pine, really is pine. That's why I call it the knife destroyer, the knife killer. Well, you can see that absolutely horrendous. I mean, look at the size of that knot in there. It's massive. Yeah. So, right, the hard part, the part I regret the most is, let's see what damage we've done. If that came out of this unscathed, I'll be very shocked. Okay, so you can see how hard I was hitting that pine. Yeah. Apart from some pine sap. So what pine sap? It's very hard to tell you what pine sap. Okay, so obviously you're going to get some marks on the handle because I've had to hit the handle, but the handle is made out of one piece of steel anyway, so I'm not really bothered about that. But the blade, unbelievably, the blade is actually not touched. No rolls, no chips, no bends. The little mark up there on the tip as well, it's not gotten any worse. It's still exactly the same as it was on the previous test, apart from a load of pine sap all over stuck on it. It's done well. It's done really well for that. Handle slabs still okay. there's no cracks or anything. Obviously it's got a bit of marks on from my dirty hands, but apart from that, that's okay. Perfectly straight, tip's perfectly straight. Looks like there's a bend in it, but there isn't actually a bend on it. I think it's just the way the camera is, but you can see the tip on there, the edge. No damage, and not what I can see anyway. So that's a pass, and it's actually quite shocked me, to be fair, because like I said before, this has destroyed many of knives that's more expensive than what this is before. It is literally rock solid, and the cherry before it as well, but obviously that pine is a killer. It really does kill knives. So that's a pass. Doesn't help like this table. I think definitely not going to use this table in future for doing any chopping on it. I only made it to put my cups of tea on and things when I'm chilling out. Okay, so get the same piece of wood that what I start with. So again, if I was making a fire, that would have sorted my fire out. I split some logs for later on for the fire, made some kindling, chopped that up. So just imagine I'm still at camp. I still need some chopping chores to do, so again we'll give it another chop with the same stick that I started with. Okay. Okay, so again, chopped it. Check for head damage again. And these guys are called Steel. They really know what they're doing with regards to heat treat. That's pretty impressive, to be fair. It's pretty impressive. They definitely know what they're doing when they made this knife. I think if they made it more blade heavy, you know, forward weight, it would be a lot better chopper. But considering it's a flat grind with a secondary V edge, it performed quite well, to be honest with you. Yeah, that surprised me a little bit, because I actually thought it was going to, when we got to the pine, I actually thought in the back of my mind that it's going to fail, but it didn't. So it's really surprised me, to be fair. And even when I was whacking on the spine as hard as I could to split through that pine, there's no damage to the spine either. So again, it's very well heat treated, very well made, considering it's only 52-100 steel, which is only a cheap carbon steel, but it's a working tool steel, a bit similar to 5160, sorry, the spring steel that they use in Nepal for their kukris and etc. And they do use 52-100 as well for many of their blades. So it's a good chopping steel. It is a good chopping steel, but it's just a shame that the weight is here rather than here. I would much rather prefer the weight being here, if I'm honest. So I'm quite impressed with that, yeah. But the one thing that I wasn't looking forward to is actually the tip test, because at the very start of my videos when I did the Drop Forge Survivalist, is the one thing that it was in my mind that I was worried about was the tip, because the tip's not very thick. Like I say, it starts at 6mm and it tapers all the way down to the tip to about 2mm, which makes it good for stabbing, but is it strong enough? Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to stab this into a log or a car or something like that. I'm not going to wiggle it about laterally, because in the real world, what I'd use this knife for, I wouldn't use it for prying, because I know eventually if you're using it for prying, that tip will probably snap or have a nasty bend on it. So what I am going to do, I'm going to do some stabbing motions with it in a hard log, and instead of going laterally, I'm actually going forward and backwards like you're supposed to, just to get the tip out again. That will still test the tip to see if it's strong enough, but I never prow with my knives. You know, I've never stabbed with my knives and then do the lateral movement. I never do that, because eventually don't care what knife you've got, eventually that will knacker your tip up. So yeah, let's crack on with that. I'm not going to use a glove for this because it has got a cross guard there to stop me hand from slipping onto the blade, okay, which I explained in one of my other videos as well about knife guards. This movement I'm going to show you is typically what we'd use a guard for. What a guard for would be on a knife would be for this motion I'm showing you, which is a motion that I very rarely use, to be honest with you. I'm only doing it purely for the video purposes, just to test that tip. So I've got this old stumpy. Okay, so get a good grip on the knife. Now, if you're doing a stabbing movement, guys, yes, you can do that if you've got a guard. It's quite decent, but I also put my thumb on top like that. Okay, that gives you that little bit more security, if you like, when you're stabbing. Okay, so we'll start with some soft stabs. Rickety table back. 2. 3. All's good, no rolls. Okay, so a little bit harder this time, you can see. One more. Right, so no bends. As you can see from the video, I was stabbing, well, pretty much full strength really. I even at the last minute chose to do 2 hands, which is a little bit dangerous, but I wanted to see how much power I could put in it, behind it. And again, there was no lateral movement, but tip straight as an arrow, like it was at the start. There's no rolls on it whatsoever. Looking down, no bends, no rolls. Spine is fine, tip is fine. Okay, so that to me is a pass. So it passed chopping, heavy duty chopping. It's passed heavy duty batoning through very hard seasoned pine, and then chopped again afterwards again. And then we batoned it through some cherry, some really hard seasoned cherry, which again passed with no edge damage whatsoever. So yeah, I mean, even when you're chopping, I mean, this handle looks very uncomfortable, but actually it's not. I mean, if you're doing a stabbing moment, that did feel a bit uncomfortable, because obviously this is like sandpaper. So if you're doing a chopping movement, obviously you're going to get a lot of movement there when you are stabbing. That's why I sometimes like to put my thumb there to prevent more movement, obviously. But if you didn't put your thumb there, yeah, you'll get some hot spots on your hand there from the scales. But as far as chopping is concerned, this is actually quite comfortable, which is again, which is surprised me. Not once did I feel any hot spots, no vibrations. The only vibrations that I felt was when I was chopping through the pine, and I was hitting the handle, which you can hear the handle vibrating. But that's because obviously the handle scales, it's not because it's there's a fault with the knife, it's because obviously in this bit, although it's one piece of steel, it's slightly hollowed in order for you to put the scales through. That's the only noise that you could hear. But the handle slabs are still really tight, no damage to the blade. So yeah, for the knife guys, I would say so far that I do recommend this. From a heavy duty survival point of view though, I don't know, you could certainly use it for survival, but for me personally, I would like to have more weight on that end, on that on the blade side, to aid you in chopping. But for what it is, it's superb. I think it's brilliant, and for the price, I think it's 90. I think this was around about £90 for this one. Again, this is generation 2. This is the Mark II version. The Mark I version didn't have the handle slabs on it, and I think it was a slightly different colour in the steel as well. I think it was more like a silvery goldy kind of colour. But again, it was a solid knife, but people didn't like it because it didn't have the handle slabs on it or any scales whatsoever. So people just used paracord or some sort of wrap, like tennis wrap or something like that, to make it more comfortable. And that's when Cold Steel decided to make a Mark II version of this and put the handle slabs onto the handle. And the only place where I thought it would fail, well, where I thought it would fail, would be the tip, and it didn't fail, it shocked me, to be honest. Just do some slicing tests as well while I'm here. I know I said I'd keep these videos down to 20 minutes. We're already on 37 minutes, coming up to 38 minutes now, but it is what it is, unfortunately. When you're doing these tests, you do tend to go on forever. Got a few knots on here, so I'll just do some quick slicing tests. Bear in mind, it's got some knots on it as well. Chest levers, because I've got a knot there as well. Okay, so still slices, as it did before. Obviously, if I stropped it after them tests, it'd probably be even better, considering the test I'll just put it through. Just probably use that tip again, actually. Just going to test this tip, I think. Yeah, still doing it. Right. This is a tripod that I've borrowed. Again, I want to put some more work on this tip area. Again, not putting any force, I'm just using the weight of the blade to do the work for me. Like that. There was a knot there, so it got stuck on the knot. Yeah, still carves. Impressed with that. Really good. And again, I'm going to have, there's no damage. Still feels sharp. Don't know if it's hair shaving sharp. I'm running out of hairs on my arms because I'm always using my arms. Always using my arms to shave hair. Don't know if you can see that, guys. See that? Still shaves hair. Still shaves hair. Yeah. Oh, let's sit on the rickety table. Probably going to fall off the table now, and then you lot can laugh at me. Yeah, concerning all the tests I've put this knife through, it's still hair shaving sharp, guys. I mean, I absolutely smashed it through that pine, as you can see on the video, and that cherry. But it's still hair shaving sharp. Tested the tip, tested down here as well. So pretty much hair shaving sharp all the way, which is really impressive. Bear in mind, this is a cheap kind of, it comes in, for me, it comes in the budget line of survival knives. It's only 52-100 steel, and it's very solidly built. I see it's drop forged steel, made from one piece of steel, so it's really solid. So after performing them tests, do I recommend it? Yeah. I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to do a long-term review of this, keep using it, and review it again in a few months. I think I could do with a lot of my knives as well, see how it performs. But yeah, after that beasting, I've just put it through and it's still hair shaving sharp. There's no damage or anything. I think it's quite decent, if I'm fair, to be fair. Quite decent. Really good. So yeah, that's the cold steel drop forge Survivalist Mark II with the handle slabs. So yeah, I do recommend it. Yeah, highly recommend it, in fact. So yeah, I'm going to sign off now. Hope this has answered a lot of your questions of its capabilities. It certainly answered my questions, because I didn't think it was going to do as well as it did, to be fair. But yeah, well done, cold steel. Well done. You've produced a good blade here. So yeah, hats off to you. We'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye bye for now.